No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live, episode number 53. And to support our brand new independent news venture, please hit subscribe right now and turn on your notification bells. Britain's most dangerous man today said that Nut Zero is more of a threat than terrorism, and the MSM went gaga for it.
That he wants climate and biodiversity to be at the very centre of UK foreign policy under his leadership. And he reiterated that multiple times, saying that although he's been kept very busy with conflict and the migration crisis and things like that, his true mission was to ensure that it was worked towards addressing climate change and adapting to it, both through fossil fuel projects and things like that, but also improving biodiversity to adapt to the threats of climate change. We're going to be central to his department's agenda for the rest of this.
Oh, are they just? The Trump-hating mastermind flop thicko David Lammy, who Slippery Starmer inexplicably made Foreign Secretary, should surely be focused on stopping World War III. So I'm going to reveal why I agree with Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice about Loony Lammy in a blistering digest next, and I'll show you how we have the village idiot now representing us on the world stage. Then my superstar panel, Leilani Dowding and June Slater, weigh in. Also coming up today, Outrage as a Rotherham victim is censored by a judge after calling for her persecutor to be deported to Pakistan. Plus, Leilani opens up about her tears over BBC pedo Huw Edwards escaping justice.
Someone has pictures of children being raped and then they don't spend a single day in jail. I don't understand how that's justice.
And our royal mastermind, Angela Levin, with the latest royal news, including why Prince Harry's paranoia is growing as he continues to record the paparazzi while other big celebrities deal with it just fine. Then in the uncancelled after show today, a royal special, why the man who exposed the bullying investigation into Meghan Markle within the royal family believes there are stunning parallels with her newly reported Hollywood bad behaviour. You're not going to want to miss that one. You can register to watch right now at www.outspoken.live. It is a safe space, free of censorship. Your support at just £5 a month if you register today not only gives you 30 minutes of extra content every single weekday, it allows me to continue making this independent daily news show and means that you no longer have to rely on the crooked and corrupt MSM for your news ever again. Let's go. I warned that this communist Labour government was going to be bad, but I have to say that even I have been stunned by the depths of stupidity that they have managed to plumb after just 3 months in charge. Nothing has been more damaging to the UK, however, than the appointment of a legitimate numbskull called David Lammy to the critical role of Foreign Secretary under two-tier Keir Starmer. Now, I don't know how many people realise that the neocons are marching us blindly into World War III. Loony Lammy, rather than helping to start it, should be focused night and day on avoiding that horrendous calamity at any cost. Instead, this fool has decided he has one mission: Nut Zero. As this spoof-like headline read today, it's in the Daily Telegraph, not the Onion, I promise you. Climate change, a more fundamental threat than terrorism, Lammy to warn. He even released a Hollywood-style trailer to hammer home his point. Stop wasting money on ridiculous gimmicks like that. But actually, it got worse when Loony Lammy started talking.
We will take a phased and inclusive approach to building the alliance, listening to those leading the way on clean power and those who share our ambitions. But the shared goal is clear: making net zero power a reality everywhere. Change is critical if we're serious There is no pathway to countries' development aspirations without climate resilience, action on the nature crisis, and access to clean energy, and no pathway to a sustainable future without development that leaves no one behind.
He is the Foreign Secretary. But of course, Labour's client journalists at Sly News, home of the Climate Change Show, naturally lapped up such ludicrous messaging.
That he wants climate and biodiversity to be at the very centre of UK foreign policy under his leadership. And he reiterated that multiple times, saying that although he's been kept very busy with conflict and the migration crisis and things like that, his true mission was to ensure that it was worked towards addressing climate change and adapting to it, both through fossil fuel projects and things like that, but also improving biodiversity to adapt to the threats of climate change. We're going to be central to his department's agenda for the rest of this.
So thank goodness for Reform UK, whose deputy leader Richard Tice pointed out, in teenage girl language, which I love, by the way, because I'm always using this term, OMG, our Foreign Secretary Lammy thinks greatest overseas threat is climate change, not war or terror. He is competing with Miliband as Britain's most dangerous man. Well, Richard, I'm actually going to go one step further. And I'm going to say he's not competing. David Lammy is Britain's most dangerous man. Because his hard left political philosophy is combined with a stupidity that simply shouldn't be allowed around the cabinet table. IQ test this man now. If you don't believe me, let me show you Lammy campaigning to overturn the biggest ever Democratic vote in British history.
But you have to have the option to remain in the European Union for the option to mean...
But you know, Mr Dowd's colleague in the Treasury team, John McDonnell, says the option to remain is not something that Labour is prepared to offer the voters.
Well, my own view is that that would be a betrayal of Labour members.
Oh, a betrayal of Labour members. Well, what about the betrayal of the 17.4 million Leave voters who you attempted to disenfranchise? This is a man who truly believed Jeremy Corbyn would make a great Prime Minister.
I so wished that Bernie would have been alive to see his great friend Jeremy Corbyn become leader of the Labour Party.
And just wait when you hear what our Foreign Secretary said about Nigel Farage and the man who should be America's next president if he's not assassinated by the deep state before Election Day, Donald Trump. He wrote in 2020, desperate and deluded, like two con men who have been publicly exposed trying to sell their pyramid scheme one last time. The world will breathe an enormous sigh of relief when this double act fades into irrelevance. Populist nationalism is on its way out. I mean, that was a stupid prediction too, right? And I mean, look, when I say stupid, I'm not being mean. I just really mean it.
Policing has vanished. It's not around you. We haven't seen a police while I've been here, and I've been here for a little while now. Police.
Nothing can top his catastrophic Mastermind performance.
What was the married name of the scientists Marie and Pierre who won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1903 for their research into radiation?
Antoinette.
Curie. James Gandolfini played a mafia boss called Tony in which American television series?
Godfather.
The Sopranos. Which variety of blue English cheese traditionally accompanies port?
Leicester.
Stilton. Who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547?
Henry VII.
Edward VI. In chemistry, what French word is used for a tube for transferring measured amounts of liquids?
Pass.
What was the married name of the scientist?
Now, that TV appearance actually got a mention from the Conservative leadership hopeful Kemi Badenoch when she was asked about Lammy's insane nut zero agenda today.
couple more questions I want to ask you very briefly. David Lammy, who's saying the Foreign Secretary currently right now giving a speech saying climate action will be central to the Foreign Office. He's forming a new climate coalition internationally. He says this is a bigger threat to the world than threat of autocratic leaders like Vladimir Putin or terrorism. Do you agree with him, or is that a completely daft thing?
He is not a serious man. He is not a serious man by any stretch of the imagination. And this goes back to his, appearance on Mastermind, where he said Henry VII succeeded Henry VIII. This is who is representing us on the world stage. What is our biggest challenge now? It is a coalition of authoritarian states that are acting and collaborating against Western interests, including the UK's interests. That is the biggest challenge. Of course, climate change is a challenge, but it's not him having a group of people sitting in a meeting that's going to fix that. Well, that's what we've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. He's talking about COP26. Many of the commitments that were made there, other countries aren't following through. Why are they not following through? Simply saying we're going to do this without having a plan is silly. The plan that we put in place ended up enriching China and is deindustrializing the UK. As business secretary, these were some of the things that I worked very hard to try and solve. It's virtually impossible to solve with the targets and commitments that we've made. We need to look at all of this from
you would drop the net zero targets and prioritize economic growth.
Well, without economic growth, we're not going to hit net zero. Without economic growth, we're not.
A couple more questions I want to ask you.
Look, I'm actually with Julia on this one. It is one or the other. So while Kemi is absolutely right when it comes to the total disdain she has for Lammy the man, she doesn't have disdain for the economically destructive nut zero. So yet again, it's only Reform UK truly fighting to keep the UK's lights on, which will actually be a miracle to keep the lights on if we're subjected to 5 years of Loony Lammy. But now, let me bring in today's superstar panel. Oh, and I am delighted to be joined today by June Slater, who is a businesswoman, a YouTube sensation, and a voice of sanity to many around the UK, and Leilani Dowding, who is a reality TV star and now a social commentator who went viral all over the world yesterday. And Leilani, we're going to speak to you about that later. But June Slater, I can only imagine your blood pressure rising when you hear David Lammy, Loony Lammy, saying that as Foreign Secretary, the thing he's going to be most focused on, June, it's not going to be stopping World War III and the neocon march towards that, but rather making sure every other country destroys themselves with net zero, or nut zero, as I call it.
Well, I think he showed himself in his true colours on Mastermind, named the famous scientist. What did he come with? Marie Antoinette. Yeah, I think that's because he's always thinking about cake. I mean, who's buying his suits? It looks like he comes out to a meeting in those suits, you know, where Jimmy's gone to school and his mother said, you'll make that suit last till end of term. He buttons it up in the middle. And then he's got those black trainers on, going to meetings in trainers. So he's obviously got bad feet. He's carrying far too much weight. And he's telling us how we should live. He's telling us how to create net zero. I think get your own carbon footprint down and put a few less things in your mouth. That might help. Because we're supposed to not eat meat now. We're supposed to eat insects to help with this. He's a nutcase. We've known he was a nutcase. He accused me of being a racist because I had white dogs years ago when we were fighting Brexit. And he said in a response...
What? Okay, back up, June. You're going to have to explain that one for us.
He said I was a racist. In fact, I think he said I was a Nazi. He said it was to do with the fact I only had white dogs. And I said, well, they only come in one colour. They're called West Highland Whites. The clue's in the name. They don't come in any other colours. It was a dispute, you know, an argument, a debate, whatever you want to call it, about Brexit years ago, because obviously he's anti-Brexit. He doesn't believe in democracy. He doesn't believe in healthy nutrition. He doesn't believe in being able to power your own home through cold spells. He doesn't believe in the pensioners having a winter fuel allowance. He doesn't believe pensioners should be able to hang on to their own homes, because he also voted against the winter fuel allowance, and they've taken the cap off the social care. Now it's a free-for-all. Nana's house, we don't need to worry where Nana's house is going. It's going to the Labour Party in government. So Lammy it's embarrassing. I have to apologise to people from abroad that know me, especially when they're in from Austria, and they go, Juni, who is the man with the goes to all the foreign trips? I said, oh, this is our Foreign Secretary, David Lammy. They think he's visiting us. They don't think he comes from here because he knows so little about the country. He never says anything that makes any sense. He's a fruit wombat. Yeah, I can't even get angry with him because it's like, carrying the community politics.
Well, I know, but this is the difficulty, isn't it, Leilani? Because obviously, on the one hand, there is that. This guy is completely mad, completely thick. I mean, I don't say that lightly. Really, really not a smart man. He proved that on Mastermind. But there's also something really sinister and worrying about this, where we see what's happening with, for example, Ukraine. There's another £600 million. Forever wars, that's what the neocon want. But we have Lammy not talking about trying to stop that, and certainly not the threat of Islamic terrorism, which he doesn't discuss at all, which is what I am completely focused on and utterly scared of. And I think we all should be here in the UK. Yet he says, actually, no, the most important thing I'm going to do as Foreign Secretary is nut zero, even though we already have another nutty bloke, Ed Miliband, focused entirely on that.
Well, this is what is scary. And honestly, Dan, I think he has to be a DEI hire. There is no other reason that he should be in this government or in the position he's in. And it is scary. We now have two important people in the Labour Party who are just simply focused on net zero and green energy and nothing else. They can't see anything else. And again, as I always say, you've got to follow the money here. We know one of their huge backers was Vince, who has massive interests in green energy and so forth. So we need to look at where the money is going to, who's getting these contracts, what's happening, because if you ask any of the British people, they will say their biggest concerns are terrorism and going to war. How can they not be with the climate that we're in? And I don't mean climate as in the weather. I mean the climate with the war, the pressure, this pressure cooker that's building up. And, honestly, it's absolutely insane to me that this guy is able to just... He's been put in that position. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, especially given his publicly held views on Donald Trump. I mean, the moment Trump is elected, as I say, if he actually lives to the election, which is a genuine worry of mine, another big concern, if the election goes fairly and we do get Trump back in the White House, then you can imagine this is immediately going to become a massive issue for the UK because Trump won't deal with that guy after all of the revolting things he said. Now, there's also a big issue in terms of popularity with this Labour government. So look at what happened when Slippery Starmer went out to the races. So Nigel Farage has capitalised brilliantly on that moment today. Choose your fighter, he says, June. And it is quite a contrast, isn't it?
Well, what they can't get over, no matter how much they try to disrespect Nigel Farage, is he is the people's choice. It's as simple as that. 98 seats, they came second. That means that if all those apathetic people that didn't vote this time come out next time to vote, then you really have a serious opposition. They're the only serious opposition now anyway. So the thing about Nigel, he's got this charisma. He can talk to people. He talks to them, not at them. And that's what's missing. That's why your show's so popular, because you talk to people, not at them. These other presenters, like with Sky News, they talk at people. We know better than you, listen to us. Whereas when you're listening to Nigel, you feel you're with him in the room and he's talking to you.
You're so right, actually. And I mean, look at what Lammy said, Leilani, about Nigel and Trump. He couldn't have been more wrong, describing them as two con men, saying they've been publicly exposed, that they were trying to sell their pyramid scheme one last time in 2020. Well, that is actually a delusional comment. Lammy is the one that is deluded, because I don't believe Trump or Farage are even close to finished.
No, and you know what? If you look at the popularity, you can see there, people dislike Keir Starmer immensely. He's getting name called all the time. You don't see that with Nigel. I saw other things where other videos of another Labour MP in another part of the country being heckled until he was pushed out of a pub. People don't like Labour because they know that they're liars. They know that they aren't following through on any of the things that they said. They've relied on people that have voted for Labour historically, assuming that they're going to be the same Labour Party, and they're not. These are people that don't care about the working class of England, and they've prioritised themselves. So, you know, I think what he said, he should probably look at Donald Trump and look at Nigel and see that the charisma they have and see how people actually really get behind those two guys. He's very bitter and he's obviously very jealous of their popularity.
Yeah, totally. And they're not going anywhere, Lammy. That's the thing. You're the one actually who people are sick of already. Now, breaking right now, a shocking development when it comes to the UK's two-tier justice system. A Rotherham rape gang survivor was ordered by a judge to remove a demand for her abusers to be deported in her courtroom victim impact statement. Now, this story has been revealed by Charlie Peters at GB News, who has been on this story for a long time. There are the 7 men who received a huge amount of jail time, quite rightly, in a story ignored by the mainstream media last week. But at the Sheffield Crown Court, the victim was unable to say what she wanted to do because of a ruling from the judge. Now, GB News has actually obtained the original copy of the speech that she intended to deliver, which had several sections crossed out due to restrictions ordered by the judge. Now, what this woman wanted to say to the man who had groomed and raped her from a young age was, "I'd like to request that after sentencing and upon Ruby and Shuabi's release, that they should be deported back to Pakistan, as this is where they originated from and came here to exploit children. Thank you." She is referring, of course, to Muhammad Amar, that is Ruby. He is 42, convicted of 2 counts of indecent assault and sentenced to 14 years imprisonment. Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, has responded to this development, saying, "For too long, women have been let down by the justice system, and the grooming gang scandal continues to be a national disgrace. Justice would be better served by speeding up cases, many of which are over a decade old." And Lee Anderson, the Reform UK MP for Ashfield, went further, saying, "For far too long, these Pakistani grooming gangs have got away with grooming and raping young English girls, whilst the police and social services have been very slow to act. It would now appear that even when these vile perverts are caught, that our justice system still puts the perpetrators before the victims. No ifs or buts. If they were born in a different country, send them back straight away." So, Leilani Dowding, this is an extraordinary story on so many levels. I mean, the fact that it was only Charlie Peters from GB News, the lone journalist sitting in that Sheffield courtroom last week, is a complete disgrace. Congratulations for Charlie, given he has doggedly covered the story. But I cannot believe that we now have judges censoring victim impact statements, Leilani, not because what this poor victim wanted to say was in any way going to prejudice any other court case, but simply because her words are not palatable to the woke elite.
Well, it's unacceptable. The whole judiciary system in this country needs to be looked at, and it needs to be reviewed, because this is a victim. And if you're going to allow a victim to make a victim impact statement, then allow her to say what she damn well wants. Don't start censoring the bloody victim. This is unacceptable, Dan. It's, how many more times can you hurt these victims? Aside from the fact, years ago, they weren't believed. Now they're believed. Now they go to court. The guys and she cannot say what she wants to say because it's not palatable. It's not right with the woke establishment. It's not, it's just unacceptable. If you're going to allow a victim to give a victim impact statement, let the victim say what they wish to say. And you're right as well about Charlie being the only person that's going to be there. I think this has become so common. It's almost like it's being normalized. This is horrific. What happened in these events to this woman as an 11-year-old are so horrific. Yet I think it's just something. Oh, another one. Why cover it? It's just another one. We'll just get the information secondhand. And it's the media, the mainstream media, the judiciary system. It's horrific, and I don't trust any of it. One single iota.
June, I actually wonder if Leilani is being too fair there to the mainstream media, because I actually think what the mainstream media is doing here is far more sinister and far more corrupt. I believe they do not cover these cases because it does not fit the narrative that they want to give. Because, June, the moment that it was white working class people being sent to prison for tweets and Facebook posts after the Southport massacre, Sly News was more than happy, BBC was more than happy, ITV was more than happy to send its reporters up and down the country to stand outside these regional court houses.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. Unfortunately, we have lost our media. We have a Stasi state media now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's the BBC or it's a commercial channel. And they're so busy being woke and being politically correct that they are completely unaccepting the fact that there's a group of people within a community that gravitate towards grooming gangs that come from a particular background, and they are a phenomenon. And it needs to be acknowledged because the people living in the communities know about it. And when I say communities, I'm talking whole towns. I'm talking Rochdale, Oldham, Burnley, Blackburn, Bradford. We know the towns, the mill towns of the former Industrial Revolution, the cotton towns, the wool towns, and then the towns in the Midlands. People understand fully, the public understand fully what's gone on. And the sad thing is that Labour basically kept it quiet, not because they were favouring these people, because they were saving votes, because basically this demographic have larger families and they're securing the votes of the future. Because where we have 1.4 children, they have 5.4 children. So that's more votes. It's not even about ethics or morals. This is simply about slimy people in politics trying to nurture a position of power that they wouldn't gain through normal means.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Now, breaking right now, our very own Leilani Dowding has gone viral all across the world for her impassioned and emotional response to Huw Edwards, the BBC's biggest star presenter, avoiding jail despite admitting to having child sex videos on his own phones. Here's her emotional plea.
I don't have children, but I think they are the most important things in the world. They are the most important things. So when someone has pictures of children being raped and then they don't spend a single day in jail, I don't understand how that's justice. And I'm really upset. Because like I said, I think children are the most important things in the world. And I'm angry, and that's why I'm crying. I'm so angry because it's frustration, and it's like, what can we do? What can we do about it? When we don't have a justice system, when they'll lock people, like you go out and you protest and you get angry, or you make threats against paedophiles, they'll come and lock you up. They'll come and lock you up for saying something. There are people sitting in jail because of Facebook posts right now. Like literally sitting in jail for 2 years, 3 years. Some of the people that follow me. And this fucking guy has got off, and the people that sent him, the person that sent him the pictures has got off. Are we going to protect the children?
And unfortunately, the answer to that is no. Now, that video, Leilani, well done, by the way, because sometimes it's really hard to put yourself out there with that type of raw emotion, but it's hit a nerve. Because I think that is how so many millions were feeling yesterday. We've had to suffer through weeks, Leilani, of seeing people locked up, and we'll talk about some of them literally sending a tweet, but paedophiles avoid jail. Something has gone so wrong with our system.
Well, this is the thing, Dan. I looked at the news in the morning and I'd seen him walking into the court with his head held high, almost like he was on a red carpet, gave a wave, nod, smile, thank you, walked in there, and I thought, this guy knows something. This isn't a guy who's holding his head in shame because he's got pictures of children being raped on his phone. He's holding his head up high. This is messed up. So anyway, I had a nice morning with my horses, put them away. They were happy. And I looked at the news and I saw it there in black and white. He suspended sentence. He will not spend a day in jail. And I was so angry. It was like I was going to explode. I was so angry. And then I got inside the house. I thought, I'm going to talk about this. And then I just couldn't help myself, Dan. Every time I said, children are the most important thing, it just filled me. Like it was angry tears, but upset tears as well. Because and then I'm thinking, this is why people don't want to look at these heinous crimes. This is why people bury their head in the sand, because it brings up these emotions. And to me, it was uncontrollable. I was angry and I was sad at the same time. And this is me as an onlooker. I've got no experience of this. I'm just looking in on it, seeing, man with child rape pictures gets off jail. So how do the victims feel? How do the victims feel? How does every child that's been molested or had their picture spread around, how do they feel when you hear that? And you know what it does? It emboldens the paedophiles, because now every paedophile will look at that and go, oh, whew, we're safe. If we spread pictures around, as long as we didn't take the videos of these children being raped, we can share them and not spend a day in jail. And that's what's happening here. And I don't know who's to blame. Is it the justice system for not looking him away? Is it the court? What is it? I don't know, but it has to change, because people are disgusted. People are so disgusted. People that don't even get political about things, people that are on the left, on the right, people are disgusted about this. Everyone is. And if this doesn't wake people up, because there's no grey area here, you're either for the evil or you're against it. And, if you can give that guy any kind of excuse or say that was a fair sentence, then you're sick. You are absolutely sick and you are not a good person.
And June, it is interesting, isn't it? Because I've heard a lot of the MSM try and justify the sentence. But the thing is, the Chief Magistrate, Paul Goldspring, who was the person who decided that Huw Edwards shouldn't go to jail, do you know, June, that was the same man who sent to jail the young bloke with learning difficulties who accosted Chris Whitty. Do you remember that? He just made a video of himself with Chris Whitty around London. He went, oh, Chris Whitty. And he wasn't all there. And he got sent to jail, June, by the same judge, or Chief Magistrate, I should say.
Well, there is no justice. We've got to forget it. You can't rely on the justice system. It's a fallacy, because too much has gone on. These people go into jail for tweets, angry tweets that they've later taken down, and getting 2 years and no bail. And then you get a despicable character. He's a pervert. Huw Edwards is a pervert, he's perverted, he's sick. There's something wrong with him. He's not wired up right. He's just got away with being able to pretend to be decent. And that's why he got to read the news and got to host so many shows, because he pretended to us that he was decent. And that's what we expect from our presenters. But he's not decent. He's weird, he's perverted, he's strange, and he gets his rocks off by looking at kiddie porn. Now, the other thing, porn, if the BBC journalist reporting on this said he was looking at child pornography, child porn pictures. There's no such thing as child porn, because porn would lead you to believe that there's a porn star, because that's an industry. Porn is an industry, like it or not, it's an industry. These kids didn't get a say in the matter.
Well, actually, June, let me just interrupt briefly, because you refer to that, and actually there was a man outside the court who confronted the BBC reporter Seema Chattinda for that reason. So let's just have a look and you can react off the bat.
Excuse me, are you Seema Chattinda?
So we just want to go live, so we're not in a position
Did you just refer to child abuse imagery as being child porn? Did you refer to child abuse imagery as being child porn? Were the victims in those images, porn stars then? Don't touch me again! Don't touch me!
You're trying to push over the barrier. You're trying to push over the barrier.
I'm having to shout. Why did you call it child porn? Why did you call it child porn?
Are you able to intervene?
Flattering on me. Okay, just
get out of the way.
And of course she wouldn't speak to him. And actually, June, there was another BBC report, and I'll just show a very brief moment from it, that also was accused of showing sympathy to Huw Edwards.
Intently emotional as the court heard about his mental health problems, his suicide risk, and an upbringing where his failure to get into Oxford left him feeling like an outsider at the BBC.
June, your response?
His failure to get into Oxford, so that would take us back, 40 years? Grow up, man. Grow up. This is a pervert that they're making excuses for because they employed him, like they employed Jimmy Savile, like they employed Rolf Harris, how many more? It's just like a paedophile ring. He could be forgiven for thinking there's something really despicable going on here. This man has no shame. As Leilani said, he went into court with his head held high. I would die 1,000 deaths if I'd been caught out for doing something like this. And that's the difference between people who have integrity. Huw Edwards isn't sorry. Huw Edwards is sorry he's been caught, because otherwise it would have been a confession. He would have come clean beforehand and said, I can't cope, I can't carry on doing this anymore. But he hasn't done that. He's been caught. So all these sob stories after you're caught, they don't wash with me. That's just not good enough. You're not that sorry. If you could have continued to this day, it'd still be doing it. And he'd still be sitting down reading you your news, pretending to be a decent person.
And the BBC today, astonishingly, Leilani, ran a new report about their Director General being interviewed by another BBC presenter discussing whether Huw Edwards would return to work at the BBC. It's like, oh my goodness, they just don't get it. Watch this.
Edwards will also be placed on the sex offenders register for 7 years. In July, the former newsreader admitted having 41 images which were sent to him on WhatsApp, including some showing a victim aged between 7 and 9. I can also give you a bit more detail on what the Director General has been saying. It's an RTS, a Royal Television Society event in central London at which he has been speaking. He said, I can't see Huw Edwards working at the corporation again. I can't see that happening for obvious reasons. He went on to say, the man has just been convicted of appalling crimes and it's pretty straightforward in my mind. I can't see him working here again. Talking to BBC presenter Amol Rajan there at the RTS convention in London. Now, he also went on to say that discussions are ongoing about getting the $200,000 back from Huw Edwards that he earned and continued to earn after he had been arrested and after word of his arrest had been known to some of his bosses. Tim Davie said, we want the money back.
Leilani, it's like they have no idea of how serious this is, of how reprehensible this is. If it was a private company, it would be shut by now. I mean, Leilani, we were discussing just a couple of weeks ago how there are growing theories that Jill Dando was murdered because she wanted to blow the whistle on the paedophile ring that we know existed at the BBC in the 90s and had done for many decades. And here we are in 2024, and they've shielded another paedophile.
That's right. And the language that they're using, so soft. Oh, I can't see him coming back. You know, that was me. I'd be absolutely not, under no circumstances, will that convicted man ever step foot in one of our buildings again. You don't say, oh, no, I can't see it happening. It's disgraceful. The softening of it is disgraceful. Every single little bit of it is disgusting. The whole handling of it, the whole thing, honestly, it makes me so sick and it makes me so emotional, because I just sit there and I just think of the victims and what this has done and how this has emboldened so many of those perverts around this country to think that they can do whatever they want. I'm just beyond disgusted with the whole of it. And you know what? The sad thing about it, Dan, is it didn't surprise me. And you know why? Because I was looking at sentences, and I've discussed this on your show before. I looked at sentences that some of the judges handed out to non-violent people involved somehow, but non-violently with the protests. And the same judges would lock those people up for 2 years, a year, 18 months, 3 years, and then let people with child pornography, abuse, rape pictures would let them have suspended sentences. It's the most horrific heinous, and the man that sent him the pictures also got
avoid. And I mean, he was literally making the pictures. Well, Leilani, given you've raised it, I really want to talk about Wayne O'Rourke, who I know you have been talking about as well. So this is a guy who the judge described as a keyboard warrior. He's 35 years old. He told people in Southport to get out on the street. He was jailed for 3 years. Now, Leilani, he was of good character, by the way. You tweeted, Wayne, who follows me on X, was jailed for, I mean, you said 2 years, but it's 3 years, Leilani, even worse, for a series of tweets. He was never physically present at a protest. Huw, 0 days in jail. He had pics of children being raped. If I said what I want to happen to Huw and other pedos, I would be jailed for incitement. And I just think, you look at the sentences for the likes of Wayne O'Rourke.
Yeah.
And, it's persecution of a particular type of person, and it is proof that there is two-tier justice in this country.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Lucy Connolly. She's still sat in jail on bail until her hearing for something she said. Now, what those two people said, I could say worse if I wanted to about pedos and my thought of what should happen to them, Huw Edwards and others, and all the people that just get away with it, right? I had to get off Twitter because I actually thought, oh my God, if I carry on the way I'm feeling at the moment and I say the wrong thing, I'm going to have the police knocking at my door, putting me in jail for 2 weeks because I want to say far worse than what.
Well, actually, you'd be lucky to get 2 weeks, Leilani, more like 2 years.
2 years, sorry, 2 years, exactly. And I'd be locked away for incitement for saying something about, because, you know, and then I've had people mention that on Twitter, and they'll say, well, you know, they said this or they said, I said, okay, so what you're saying is that if I was to say it about a paedophile, I should be in jail too. Oh no, that's okay if you say it about paedophiles, in my opinion. That's what they would say. But it's like, no, this is why you can't do, this is why it's a problem. If you stop free speech, you stop it for everything. You stop it for everything. So you can't say, oh, I can react this way to a paedophile, but I can't react this way to being so angry about 3 little girls getting murdered. And that's the problem. When you start putting people away for saying something out of anger on social media with no intention of actually following through, with no intention of being at the protest or doing what they said, if they say it out of anger and take it down, if you start doing that, then they'll do that for everyone, and that sets the precedent, and that's it for us all.
Totally true. Look, sometimes dark humor is appropriate in these situations. Yes. You both know how much I adore Andrew Lawrence, the comedian. And he's back today as the BBC Director General.
It's lovely to see a happy ending for Huw. I can't imagine how difficult the past few months have been for him. You know, none of us is perfect. We all make mistakes. Huw did do some regrettable things, but we have to take his mental health into account. Sometimes when people are really struggling with their mental health, they can get a bit noncy. That's just a fact of life. Listen, he's been through the ringer. It's time to cut the guy some slack. He went to court, the judge let him off with a suspended sentence. He's a free man, no prison time, and I think that's fair. I mean, come on, it's not as if he wrote some hurty words on Facebook, is it?
And June, the crazy thing is, that's not all too dissimilar to that news report on the BBC that I just played you.
I know,
which wasn't
that's
a
the
spoof.
scary thing. That's what scares me about it, because we're being groomed by the media to accept anything from them. Oh, well, he did that, which is a really foul act, isn't it? Look, if you think it's okay, if these journalists think it's okay, go home tonight and imagine your dad doing it. Just go home tonight and have a think about your own dad saying, no, I can't come for my dinner tonight because I'm having a look at some kiddie photos that are being forced into doing things that will affect them for the rest of their life. Just imagine that, and then come back tomorrow and do your piece to camera and tell me how you feel, because that's what it's about, really. And Andrew Lawrence, there's a bloke who follows me, thinks he's serious. I had to tell him today. I said, no, it's a wind-up. It's irony. He's being ironic.
And we need these comedians who are prepared to push the boundaries and tackle these taboos of a woke society, right?
Yeah. That's why I did the job vacancy for the BBC, looking for nonces.
Oh yes, we have that, June. I'm not sure if I can read it out, but your X profile is the place to go for the nonce job advertisement. Yes, indeed. Well, look, you're both amazing. Thank you for bringing some sanity to this world. June Slater, YouTube sensation. You must be subscribing to her channel. And Leilani Dowding, wow, thank you so much for being so raw with how you were feeling yesterday, because you hit a nerve, and that is why we love you. Thank you both so much. See you very soon. Now, the legendary Angela Levin, royal author extraordinaire, is standing by. She is up in just 1 minute with all of the big stories out of Montecito and Buckingham Palace. But first, if you've been following my channel, you know I've talked about Verso before. They were my first ever sponsor for a reason. I've been using their products since earlier this year, initially drawn to the longevity benefits, the feeling more youthful, the having more energy, enhanced cognition, better sleep, all of that sort of stuff. But there was an unexpected bonus I started to notice. Salbein by Verso isn't just about slowing down the aging process, it's packed with research-based ingredients that also promote fat loss. These ingredients have been proven in both animal and human studies to boost metabolism and improve body composition through a variety of body mechanisms. One aspect is how these ingredients increase the body's process to break down fat and act as a calorie restriction. Mimetic, essentially fooling your body into thinking it's consuming fewer calories. They also help regulate glucose and leptin levels, which suppress hunger and increase feelings of fullness, effectively curbing cravings. Now, I take Salbein every day to feel like a younger version of myself, combating the signs of aging, which is amazing on its own. Experiencing fat loss, though, is an added bonus and something I'm very happy about. Plus, Verso ensures transparency and quality by publishing third-party testing results for each batch they produce, so you know exactly what you're paying for. Click the link in the description on YouTube and Rumble, or head over to ver.so and use the coupon code Outspoken at checkout to save 15% on your first order. To repeat, that's buy.ver.so, www.buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code Outspoken. But now back to the show, and it's time to bring in my royal mastermind. And Angela Levin joins me now. Angela, goodness me, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have had a busy weekend of PR opportunities after that disastrous Hollywood Reporter article, which we will talk about later. So last night, we saw them heading out, happy couples, off to an event, Tyler Perry's event. Loads of other celebrities were doing the same thing, including Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King. But Harry, always the one to turn something very serious, was actually filming the paparazzi on his way in. Angela, there he is, because everything for Harry now is a battle, isn't it? Nothing is just about having fun. So what did you make of the fact that here they were making another public appearance over Harry's 40th birthday weekend that wasn't actually for him?
Yes, I think, to be honest, that Meghan wanted a lot of attention herself. And the only way to do that was to do it the day before his birthday. So everyone could see her. She could have a lovely time. She was very giggly. So I imagine maybe she had a drink or two or three. And I think Harry is pathetic to do that. I mean, we see these from people who turn up in the centre of London and start screaming at everyone and police and behave abominably badly. But that Harry would think that this is a good idea and start taking pictures of everyone when it's been a quite pleasant night is very sad, I think. Very sad indeed. I mean, going there, Taylor Perry is very close to them, and he was very helpful when they wanted to come over to America, and they let them have one of his houses there. Yes. And so they were very grateful. He also actually made contact with Meghan by straight after the wedding to say he understood how difficult it was for her, and he understands, and if she wants to talk to him, he's always there for her. Very nice for a stranger to do that. So that's how close they are. They really feel good that he was there. But it's very sad that Meghan always has to show herself and what she's doing. It's something very strange about that. You know, why not let Harry have a lovely time, leave him alone and get on with it?
Well, it almost felt like, Angela, she didn't want to allow Harry to have any moment in the spotlight for his 40th birthday. Because look, there are these pictures from the Alliance for Children's Rights, which actually took place on Harry's actual birthday. And there she is with her good mate, Kelly McKee, Zaj Fenn, who is a model, of course, and who posted on X, not about Harry on his birthday, but about Harry and Meghan, saying you've been such a guiding light for our family, not just in the way that you've shown up in friendship, but how you have shown up through incredible work the Archewell Foundation does. I'm in awe of your commitment to community and to friendship. And there's a lot of people saying, Angela, that Meghan asked her to post that to try and overcome all of the negative publicity that she was having to deal with. Well, what did you make of that?
What I made of it is she spent £30,937 to go to that do. Oh, it's absolutely eye-opening, isn't it? She wanted to look sensational. Unfortunately, she doesn't. She can't wear clothes like, say, Catherine can or other women can. She always looks a bit frumpy, and it's not been made perfectly, but nonetheless, there she was. And it was an Archewell Foundation which sponsored the outing. And she obviously did that on that day so that it would take away the attention that Harry should have. It's very strange. Harry said he wanted to spend a lot of his birthday with his children, and that was the best gift he'd ever had. Now, that's a very nice thing to say and quite right, but then you hop off and go somewhere else. It's a bit disappointing, not just for the children, or perhaps they're used to it, but because you've got to be in the papers. You don't like being in the papers, but then you've got to be in the papers because Meghan likes being in the papers. So it's very sad and silly, isn't it? Who cares, actually, frankly?
Well, yeah, but it just felt like she hijacked his 40th birthday for publicity for herself.
Doesn't she? She's hijacked the Invictus Games. She's hijacked everything that he wants to do. She has to do it first and pushes him out of the way where we can all see it, or clings onto his hand and his arm as if he'd been arrested and that he can't move far from it. I mean, she has to control, absolutely has to control. It's just horrendous to see, actually. I feel that, nobody should do that to someone that they live with because it's not fair.
No, indeed. It's a very odd one. Can I just read to you a couple of theories, Angela, based on why Prince Harry keeps on pulling out his camera, by the way, to take pictures of the paparazzi. So this is what the royal YouTuber, according to Taz, had to say about it. So they are going to a party for Tyler Perry. Paparazzi are there. Everyone's smiling and waving as they go in, especially Meg. But Harry is filming the paps. No one else has a problem but him, probably compiling more fake evidence for his security court case, just like New York. And then the Royal News Network posted on X, has anyone ever told Prince Harry that if he doesn't want to live with paparazzi attention, then do not move to Southern California and join the entertainment industry? I feel like that's pretty obvious. Also, your wife clearly loves it, if the manic grinning is any indication. Do you think they are fair points, Angela?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't see them before you did. Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. If you don't want all the attention, then you don't go to the things, or you don't let them out, or it's all done very quietly. But Meghan can't do that. I think that's one reason why he's in such a mess, because he wants to be left alone. He doesn't want people taking pictures of him all the time because it makes him think about his mother. It's a long time ago, but he still does. But Meghan wants as much attention as she can. And Harry is there as a sort of second-hand person just to make up the numbers, isn't he?
Yeah, and who would have thought?
What is interesting about the Tyler Perry is that they only have 8 bathrooms, and Harry and Meghan have 16. So there must be a bit of I'm better than you on that level.
Just a small little mansion, a tiny little mansion. Now, of course, the big news over the weekend, Angela, was about Harry's birthday wish from King Charles or the royal family and Prince William and Catherine's X accounts. But I've been desperate to talk to you about this because even though such a big thing has been made of it, I mean, the Daily Mirror put on its front page, royal peace gesture, isn't the issue that if they hadn't done anything, they would have accused of looking churlish? And actually, specifically when you look at the royal family post, they had edited Meghan out of the picture and just used Harry. So that felt like a bit of a message because actually right next to Harry, on Harry's left, was Meghan. Mark, yeah, there's the full picture. So he had been removed. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, Angela, you know, William and Catherine, when they're writing on X and it's a post that comes from their heart or is something personal that they've written themselves, they sign it off W or C, whereas actually, and sometimes actually W and C. But in this case, Angela, that didn't happen.
No. They also called him the Duchess of Sussex. They didn't say Harry. So it was
the Duke
quite
of Sussex,
formal.
yes.
Yeah, the Duke of Sussex, sorry. Yes, and so it wasn't sort of warm, was it? I mean, the thing now is with the royal family is that they don't do annual birthdays. They don't recognise them if they're not working royals. But if there is something that's significant in their birthdays, they can do this. So they were just behaving very politely to do that. But if they hadn't done anything, everyone would have been at them thinking, couldn't they even just, ... So that's why they did it. I don't think it's an olive branch. I don't think it's anything at all. It's just being well-mannered and to avoid people thinking that they should behave differently. I need to say, though, that the picture, there were two of them, one with, as you said, Meghan, and one without. And they only sent the palace the one without. So I don't know that they knew that Meghan was there, but it doesn't matter. But if you look at Harry's face, which is alight with happiness and a big smile, that was in 2021, and he was a very happy person then. If you saw him now, you don't see very many smiles. You don't see that joy. This was the Harry I knew when I did the biography. You know, he was sort of bubbling with happiness. And this one sort of still has that. But now you never see that. Now he's very serious and taking photographs of people who are hanging around a party.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Angela, you've been doing some research, though, into this PR spin coming out of Montecito, claiming that Harry has discovered a new family in the US. So do you believe that? And what have you found out?
No, it's nothing, isn't it? It's actually, I think people, they're either paid or they want to do this nonsense, and they want to take away the fact that he is, you know, not welcomed by the royal family. They want to say he's still wonderful. And there they have three of them. There is Meghan's mother, Doria, is his stand-in mother. Can you believe that? No, I can't. Apparently, he relies on Doria for advice and support. Okay, that's that. And then there is the millionaire Nacho Figueras, who calls Harry his brother. He's a millionaire. He plays polo. And he gave him a gushing birthday tribute post and signed it off with the intimate words, "I love you." Very nice, but a little odd for a man to say that and actually feel that he's also his brother. You know, you can have very close friends, but it's not very tasteful to do that. And the other one is David Foster, who is a film man, and he's 74. And they say that he is so close to Harry that he really he's become his father figure. Now, I don't think anything like that. It's very different if you lose your family. But if your family are there, but in a different place and don't approve of how you're behaving and are not even well, you don't have another family. It just doesn't work, does it? Because they can never make up to your family. There's never the same. You might like them. They might be a pal, but they're not going to be like your brother. It's just not, because there is something that you've had since the very, very beginning, and this is something he's had since he met Meghan. So, you know, you can't compare the two. I thought it was a load of old nonsense, really.
But also, Angela, these are all Hollywood people, right?
Yeah.
I've spent loads of time working in Hollywood. They are as fake as you can possibly get. All of those people, apart from Doria, who's obviously a different kettle of fish, but all of those other people you've mentioned have huge amounts to gain through a relationship with Harry. So it's not a genuine relationship at all. They are yes men. They are people there to serve because they want royal connections.
People will think that they're very important because they know Prince Harry. It's actually, you can gain on that in a whole sort of field. If you are a friend of Harry's, then people let you have tables in the best dining room and all sorts of nonsense like that. You know, that's how they feel that they are close to the royal family or close to Harry. And of course they are, but you can't go beyond a certain mark. You can say, you know, marvelous friend of mine, I really like you, it's great. But you don't start saying you're a father figure, you're a brother, and you're a mother.
But do you think psychologically, Angela, given how much he is struggling at the moment, and obviously that's something we've documented now over a number of weeks, that it's almost about convincing himself because he's lost his real father, effectively, hasn't he? There's no close relationship anymore. Very often, as you've reported before, Charles doesn't even pick up the phone to him now. And William doesn't want anything to do with him. So I guess it's almost like enforced that he's had to try and find some sort of new father figure and brother because he's lost his blood relatives, even though they're alive, which is just so horrendous.
Yes, it's difficult. I don't know exactly, but my instinct says that they don't go anywhere deeply within him. I think he remembers so much about his mother still. He still thinks about her a great deal. I can't think he would ever consider having a substitute for her, whoever it was, even if it's his mother-in-law, or certainly not if it's his mother-in-law. And I think that nobody gets lower. That's why he's so miserable and looks so unhappy, because he's not really loved at the moment by the people who he wants to love him. But he's a fool, because how can he expect that if he's so rude about them and so hurtful? I think he doesn't feel, somebody told me very recently who knows him well, somebody said that he doesn't think he's ever wrong, and he doesn't think he's done, and he can't understand why they don't warm towards him. I know other people like that. They just can't see, because they've said it. They then want to move on. It's something awful. They want to move on. But actually, the individual they've really hurt can't do that. And why should they? It's a very peculiar way, but a lot of people are like that. They feel, well, that's done now. But it's not done now. It's there for a very long time. And he hasn't been able to make it better. I mean, when his first 30th birthday, he said he's committed to make the world a better place. Now, you know, he might have money, he might have energy, but it's a nonsense thing to say, because he finds everything very difficult. And you can't be sort of it's not a fairy tale that you're going to make the world a better place. What he needs to do is to make his own life better and apologize and behave properly and not attack your family. And I think that's something he doesn't feel right. There's no point doing the world, because the world is full of people, and the people inside the world need to have an idea of what's right and what's wrong, but he doesn't seem to have that. And to do what he's done to his family, I find profoundly unhappy.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Angela. Beautifully put. And actually, if we just take one look again at that photograph of Harry in the car last night, because the more I think about it, Angela, the more it sums up their relationship. Look, there's Meghan, happy, maybe a bit tipsy, as you say, loving the fact that she's been papped on the way into a big celebrity event, and she's going to be hanging around Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King and all of that lot again. And there's Harry next to her, utterly miserable, stone-faced, recording members of the paparazzi to try and prove his ridiculous point that he's stalked and harassed at all times. I just think that's such a sad portrait of the man at 40 years old, isn't it? The man who has everything, but actually still seems emotionally to have nothing.
The interesting thing is, it's not just him there with Meghan. There's lots of well-known people there. There's, you know, Oprah and all sorts of people who are there, and they might not necessarily want to take him at all. Photographers stand up there and snap, hoping they get loads of pictures for anybody.
Yeah, it's not just about you, Harry.
It's not exactly. It's not just about you, Harry. But he's anxious about that.
I know. It's like you're going to an A-list Hollywood party attended by lots of A-listers, including Oprah Winfrey. The photographers would be there whether you were there or not, Harry. You know.
Yes.
But I don't know. It just summed up so much to me, Andrew. It's like he can never let go. He can never just relax. He can never just have fun anymore. And actually, that's a really horrible way to live. It's someone who is consumed by negativity.
Yeah, you would think, though, actually, but what he said was that having become a father, he absolutely loves it. He absolutely loves being with his children. That's all he wanted. That, as I said just before, there's the people who have helped him to have a lovely party will help him at that time. But
we never see
won't
that.
he see? No, I think when you're a father yourself or a mother yourself, you then realize how your mother or your father behaved with you and how important it is to make your relationship much better, because teenagers are tricky and difficult and argue. And I think that once you've experienced this, you then understand what being a parent is to a child, and you then try and behave in a much better way. You understand it, but it means that he's now emotionally engaged to his two children. That's lovely, but he can't see that his father has adored him. And it's just the fact that he's been so awful to him that he's cut him off. It's not because he's not been welcoming a son. And it's the same with William. I mean, they adored each other. Harry told me that, they can't separate. They're the people, they trust each other. They're the only people they trust, and they adore him. He told me that he wanted to really help his father. He thinks he's a marvelous man. And, now he's got those children, it should suddenly open up. It's amazing. It opens up to you. And you think, good heavens, I didn't understand that with my parents. I didn't understand. They wouldn't let me cross the road because they want to save me. You can be very butchy about that. Children don't like it, but they have to have it because to make them safe. And you just change your attitude to your family, and especially your parents. But he don't see that.
No, he hasn't, because he's surrounded by a woman, Angela, who is constantly justifying why she has cut out the man who literally raised her, who literally put her through school, who literally sent her to university. And I think it's that terrible thing, isn't it, sometimes where they both enable each other, Angela. And I think they enable each other's worst qualities. And in fact, do stand by, Angela, because we've got so much more to discuss today about that, actually. So Angela Levin is coming over to the after show right now to discuss these latest developments after the Hollywood Reporter described Meghan Markle as a dictator in high heels. And it's very important to me that we have a safe space not patrolled by big tech, because on big tech, censorship and control runs deep. So that's why I have launched www.outspoken.live. It's our membership section where you get half an hour of extra content every single weekday. So what we do at this stage is we come off YouTube, we come off Rumble, we move to our own platform to continue the conversation in the uncancelled after show. All you have to do is sign up at www.outspoken.live, register. It's £5 a month, and your support allows me to keep making this independent news show, which I hope you agree at the moment is really important. Now, we're back every weekday, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe right now on YouTube and Rumble. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you. See you on the after show with Angela Levin in just one moment.